Welcome. Today we have another interesting question to answer. This is Dr. K on Tell Me Dr. K's channel. And the question that we are looking at today is it true that Christianity is more African than European? That's the question that we are looking at on Tell Me Dr. K. And this question is a follow-on to the video that I did some time back, which was answering a question entitled, Can an African in his normal senses be Christian? So this is a follow-up. If you didn't watch that video, please just see the link up there. Don't watch that one, then you'll miss out a lot. You won't have the background to what we are discussing today. So again, this is Tell Me Dr. K's YouTube channel, a channel which will answer your questions of theological nature, no matter how difficult the question might be, uncomfortable, or even controversial. Because on Tell Me Dr. K's channel, no question is off limit. We answer each and every question as long as somebody has asked the question or something is prevailing that requires an attention. Now, as I mentioned, today we are looking at another interesting question which we are going to answer. We will do it in several parts so that we can give much more attention to each detail. So the question we are looking at, is it true that Christianity is more African than European? That's the question that we are looking at on Tell Me Dr. K. Now, the reason why such a question is asked is because Christianity was brought to Africa, particularly in the 19th century, by Western missionaries. And that came with colonization. And many people have taken it for granted that actually Christianity is a European religion. Now we'll find out today. So please stick around until the end. Watch all the episodes that we are going to look at in answering this question so that you can fully understand and appreciate what we are going to discuss. It's very important to understand that actually Africa received Christianity in the very, very early days of Christianity. Africans already had roots with Judaism, and a number of them would migrate and go and attend Passover. Remember that on the day of Pentecost, which was 50 days after the Passover, there were people from Africa, from Egypt, from Libya, and other parts of Africa. And also you realize that the first African documented to have received Christ as Lord and Savior is the Ethiopian eunuch who was on his way home when he met Philip, and Philip preached to him, and he gave his life to Christ. So Africa has been associated with Christianity for a very, very long time. In fact, it has its roots into Judaism. Now, according to Eusebius' church history, Eusebius wrote a history of Christianity for the first 300 years. In fact, even went a little bit beyond the time of Jesus. He documents that Africa actually received the gospel in AD 43 by the preaching of John Mark. This was 6 years before any European city actually received the gospel when Paul landed in Philip to preach the gospel there. So when Mark landed in Alexandria, he preached the gospel. The gospel spread southwards, westwards, and many other directions. From the bustling streets of Alexandria, Christianity embarked on a slow, steady journey, meandering westward and eastward, weaving its way through the landscape of cultures and landscapes. It wasn't merely a religious belief, but a symbol of defiance against the formidable Roman Empire, which at that time was actually persecuting Christians. And remember that the northern part of Africa was under the Roman Empire. Now at this, we're going to fast forward to the early centuries of Christianity, and we'll be talking about what happened in Egypt. Now Egypt, with its legendary city of Alexandria, wasn't just a hub of trade. It was a powerhouse of Christian thought and theology. The Coptic Christians of Egypt weren't just followers. They were pioneers, developing unique theological perspectives that contributed to the broader Christian tradition. Christianity's influence in Africa extended to Alexandria, the second largest city of the Roman Empire, which boasted Bible schools of unparalleled significance. You realize, and as we will be talking about what happened, the sheer number of theologians that came probably contributed to more theological thought than any other city, which cannot even, in my opinion, be compared even to Istanbul or Jerusalem, which were the other major hubs of Christianity. Now, these institutions, the theological institutions, were unmatched in their theological learning and catechetical instructions, making Alexandria a pivotal center for Christian education and scholarship. The presence of such prestigious Bible schools in Alexandria underscores the profound impact of Christianity on the African continent, highlighting its rich intellectual heritage and contributions to early Christian theology and education. The other thing that we also have to know is that Christianity did not just end up in Egypt and surrounding areas, but that Ethiopia actually received Christianity much earlier. In fact, for your information, Ethiopia had a kingdom which was the first to declare Christianity a kingdom-wide religion. And that was before any city, any town, and any country in the world ever became Christian. Ethiopia became the first Christian nation in AD 320 during the rule of King Azana of the Aksum kingdom, who declared Christianity as an official religion of his kingdom, the first one to do so in the history of Christianity. This was done even much earlier than Rome became a Christian empire, for lack of a better term. Christianity became the religion of the Roman Empire AD 80, when Theodosius I declared or decreed Christianity as the official religion of the Roman Empire. Now, I have done a video which went a little bit in detail as to what happened during that time, when we were looking at a video entitled, "Is the Roman Catholic Really the First Christian Denomination?" And you can see the link up there if you want to watch that video, if you are interested in knowing the answer to that question. While European missionaries were just getting started, Africa had already been a home to Christianity for over 1,700 years. They thought they were coming to a dark continent, but to their shock, they found that Christianity was already rooted in Africa. Christianity persisted in Nubia despite Islamic expansion, with the kingdoms like Makur Lodia maintaining Christian traditions. Indigenous Christian communities in West Africa, such as Nigeria and Ghana, predated European missionaries, while Central African regions like Congo and Uganda had Christian communities blending with traditional beliefs prior to European influence. So that thinking that has been promoted to say that Europeans brought Christianity to Africa is debunked by this program. There's been a misconception that has been created that Christianity is a white man's religion or European religion, and that's why people wonder, particularly those of Islamic faith, they wonder why Africans should actually become Christians. I appreciate the role that missionaries played, and they contributed to the second wave of Christianity in Africa, particularly down south, east and central Africa. However, it is important to acknowledge that without Africans themselves, the Europeans would not have succeeded in spreading Christianity, because Africans embraced Christianity. They became champions, they became evangelists that went across to preach the gospel to other Africans. Africans didn't merely adopt Christianity passively, but actively engaged with it, adapting and incorporating it to their own cultural context. Without the involvement of indigenous evangelists and leaders, the spread of Christianity would not have been as successful as it was. At least it would have been slow, and at most it would have collapsed. The missionaries would not have succeeded without African indigenous Christians. Now, it's important to understand that the challenge that many people have, or the excuse people have for not believing in Christianity, is basically with the second wave of Christianity that was brought by the missionaries. Now remember that this coincided, or it was the forerunner to colonialism, or at least came about the same time with colonialism. And it is believed that Christianity was used to be able to soften the hearts of many Africans. And wrong doctrine was given to the Africans. I've heard of King Leopold of Belgium sending missionaries to the Congo and telling them to only preach on things that will make Africans forget about their God. We've also heard of stories, and in fact documents by the Catholic Church justifying and authorizing colonialists to go ahead and enslave Africans, because Africans had no souls. Africans were the ones who were cursed, who were the children of Ham. And all those, in fact, recent, I think 2021 or 2022, the Pope gave an apology about the role that it played in the enslavement of Africans and many other ethnic groupings. Now, this actually has created a bitter taste in the mouth of many Africans who want to use that as a reason why they should promote African religions and the reason why they should not become Christian. And this was more amplified during the struggle for independence. There were statements such as, when missionaries came to Africa, we had learned they had the Bible. When they said, let us pray, we ended up with the Bible in our hands, and they had hand. There's another famous quotation from nationalists which says that there was no difference between the man of the cloth and the man of the gun, which basically depicted the role that Christianity played in aiding and abetting colonization of Africa. This statement underscores the intertwined nature of colonialism and missionary efforts, suggesting that both served to advance the interests of European powers at the expense of African sovereignty and autonomy. Now, it is important to understand, as we've indicated earlier, that Christianity had covered north of Africa, went down to East Africa, and some parts of Central Africa, long before Europeans ever even knew that such regions existed. They were more familiar with the northern part of Africa than the interior of Africa. The biggest fall that Christianity faced in the early centuries of Christianity, in the first 7-8 centuries of Christianity, was Islam. So Islam started around 600 to 700 AD, and the religion of peace became militant, started conquering and taking over land, and it conquered the whole of North Africa, coming downwards to Sudan, which is the area called Nubia, and all those areas. And therefore Islam was forced on many Africans to be able to convert or die. Despite the fact that Islam forced its way on Christianity and persecuted and killed many Christians who did not convert, despite that adversity, Christianity persevered, caving its place in the Ethiopian Empire and the lingering pockets across North Africa. Fast forward to 15th century, where the winds of change swept across the African shores as Portuguese explorers arrived, heralding a new chapter in Christianity's tale. The Dutch soon followed suit, laying the groundwork for the Dutch Reformed Church in 1652. However, real intense missionary work came to Africa around the 19th century. When European missionaries came to Africa to evangelize it, they found that Christianity had already been in Africa for more than 1,700 years. I'm sure that must have been a shock, and it may be a shock to you if you are hearing this for the first time. And the reason that we are bringing up this program is to be able to ensure that many people actually have the true facts about Christianity. Because today, We have a lot of information that is spreading, particularly on social media. As you know, social media is uncontrolled. Social media is not regulated, so anyone can say whatever they want to say. Actually, social media promotes democratization of the media. No longer is one major news and entertainment agency dominating the world, but today even small individuals are actually commanding a following, as long as they have something that other people want to hear. Now, deep in the heart of Africa, ancient traditions thrived untouched by the winds of change until the 19th century. It was then that Christian missionaries surged, driven by the intensity of anti-slavery crusades and European colonial ambitions. And thus, during the second wave of European Christianity after the 16th century, European missionaries encountered surprisingly Christianity had long found its home in various corners of Africa. This was now more than 1,900 years after Christianity had been in Africa. So thank you very much for watching this part of the program. This has been Dr. K on Tell Me Dr. K, a channel on which we answer your questions of theological nature, no matter how difficult the question might be, controversial, uncomfortable, or unpopular. On Tell Me Dr. K, no question is off limit. Please don't forget to subscribe, to like, and comment so that this video can be seen by more people. We will now move to the next part of the program, answering the question, is it true that Christianity is more African than European?